alone, he sits there broken. An elderly man with storm clouds setting in his eyes. He counts the sands of time, remembering days gone by. It seemed like yesterday before it washed away.
Hey, this is Walt from StogieReview.com here for another weekly cigar review. And, well, cigar of the evening is the latest offering from Oliva, or San Lucia. San Lucia is the brand owner. Oliva makes the product, and that is the Cain Straight Ligero, and this is the Maduro variety. I was at actually I got my first one during IPCPR in New Orleans. I smoked that one actually a week or so ago. After I got back home, I found out about an event that was going on in Lancaster County, which is about 45 minutes away from home. So I met up with some guys from Twitter, my father, Mike, Paul, and Paul's father, who also is named Paul. And we got together down at Old World Tobacco in Lancaster for this Oliva event where the canes were showcased. So all of us ended up picking up a few canes, and this will be my third and final one. I'm all out. So let's go ahead and get this thing lit and take a look at what Sam has to offer in the latest cane. Just getting the band off a little snug across the foot. A little basic information about this cigar. This is the Robusto. It's a 5x50. I believe it's a Brazilian Maduro wrapper. Binder and filler are both Nicaraguan. These are made in Nicaragua, and I paid $5.80 for these. Generally in Pennsylvania, we pay MSRP because there aren't any state taxes, and a lot of the shops that I've gone to, it doesn't really mark up their products. So generally, what I pay for them is MSRP. So I'm going to assume that the $5.80 that I paid for this Cain Maduro Robusto is in fact MSRP. So moving right along. Overall, the cigar looks pretty dark. It's a little dull. There's not much of an oily sheen to it. It's got a bit of a rough texture to it, almost like a mild sandy texture. Now, the written review that's right above this video, if you're on Stogie Review, was done on a cigar that I smoked last night, and this one already is a little different. This one's kind of firm, where the other one was a little on the mushy side. This one has the same varying soft and hard spots throughout, almost as if it's not uniformly packed. I've got a soft spot right here, it feels kind of hollow. Then we go down a little bit further, and I've got another one if I rotate the cigar here, and I've got another one here, and I've got actually one at both my index finger and thumb. And then again, same thing, more toward the back of the cigar actually, which should be up in here. There's a little bit of a hollow spot. And in between all those, there are spots that are a little harder than usual. As a result, the cigar looks kind of lumpy, a little rustic. As far as the construction is concerned, it looks pretty decent. I'm not seeing any visual defects. There's no chipping in the wrapper. The seam that spirals down the cigar is nice and straight. And there aren't any tears or nicks or anything like that. The cap's nice, neatly applied. All the little things. And just like last night's sample, this cigar is actually very, very pungent. It's got a very heavy aroma to it, and it sort of reminds me of almost like mulch or wet earth. So I'm going to go ahead and get the cigar cut, and then I'm going to start lighting it. And while I do that, I'll quickly go over the very basic information that I have on this particular stick. The pre-light draw is moderate. There's a little bit of resistance to it. It's pretty good overall. And I'm not getting much in terms of cold flavor. mildly sweet. That's about it. So anyway, as I like this, these cigars are available in two different wrappers, Habano and Maduro, and both of which I think contain the same filler mixture, which is kind of not surprising that it's the same filler mixture, but it's surprising that Sam has released the information. A lot of times manufacturers don't want to get into what the makeup of the filler is. In this case, it's readily available if you look around online, and the filler is a mixture of 25% Esteli Ligero, 27% Condega Ligero, and 30% Jalapa Ligero. And the remaining, 18% is undisclosed, and the reason for that is most likely it's another mixture of tobacco like Viso or something to help it burn properly. And from what I understand, or at least the little looking around I've done, these are available in three sizes: a Robusto, a Double Toro, and a Torpedo, I believe. And the MSRP is, even for the larger size, I think is under $8. So they're priced competitively with with other cigars on the line. So. Alright, I got my cigar lit, producing a very good supply of smoke. I'm already, one puff and I'm already heavily salivating. I blew a lot of that smoke through my sinuses, and it's very smooth, it's not aggressive at all. So I'm going to smoke a little bit, and I'll be back. We'll take a look at the first third of my Cain Maduro, and we'll see how it goes, so sit tight. Alright, well, welcome back. It's about time to take a look at the first third of my Cain Maduro, and it's doing very well. In terms of burning characteristics, the ash is very light in color. It's nice and tight and compacted. It's very neat. It's not flaking all over the place, and it's very surprising because of all the Ligero in the cigar. It's a lot thicker than other primings of the plant, and as a result it has a tendency to burn slower, and that's usually the culprit when you have a cigar that doesn't want to burn properly. Something like even first cigar that comes to mind is the Padilla Obsidian. It's got that really thick dark wrapper leaf on it. It's got a bunch of Ligero inside, and as a result usually it takes a lot of touch-ups to keep the cigar burning properly. And I was really expecting the same thing with the Cain. With so much Ligero, I just assumed it was going to be not so much a nightmare to keep burning properly, but I figured there was going to be some kind of work involved. But in this case, it spent just as much time in the ashtray as any other cigar during any other review that I've done, and I haven't had to touch it up yet. So in that respect, I'm very impressed. Burn line, there's a little bit of a wave to it, but it's not bad. It's very thin, crisp, and just overall I'm just very surprised and pleasantly surprised by the burning characteristics of the cigar. Each puff, there's a little bit of resistance to the smoke, but it's very dense. It's easy coming. The finish is nice and smooth. I'm not getting any aggressiveness when I retrohale the smoke or get it through my sinuses. And it takes a bit of a firm tap to knock the ash off. I'm able to blow the smoke through my sinuses without watery eyes or a very aggressive sting sensation. So it's very smooth. Actually getting a little bit of a powdery flavor or aroma, but that's something different. As far as speaking of something different, let's transition to the flavor. I'm getting what I would best describe as an oak flavor, sort of like if you've ever cut into a piece of oak. The dust has a very distinct smell to it. I'm getting a very similar flavor out of the cigar. As it begins to fade, I'm getting just a very thick, I guess the best way to describe it is sort of like a dense, meaty flavor. And in the body department, it is very full. I'm getting that thick texture in the mouth. But where the cigar is surprising me in a negative light is the flavor level. For something so full-bodied and nicotine-laden, I was really expecting something a lot more flavorful. At this point, it seems very unbalanced in favor of strength and body. And it's got a tremendous amount of nicotine in it, or at least I'm feeling a tremendous amount of nicotine. All of the samples that I've had, by the time I get to the second third, I'm developing a mild headache, and my hands are beginning to shake a little bit. And while I'm not quite getting the headache, I do feel that nicotine buzz coming on. And to sort of combat that a little bit, I'm not pairing this with water. I'm actually drinking it with beer. The liquid bread seems to help a little bit with the nicotine. And I'm just doing a Magic Hat number 9. Nothing overly flavorful that's going to wash out the cigar. And I don't want to say there's nothing to wash out, but at this point it's very lacking in the flavor department, and it is very heavy in both strength and body. So a bit unbalanced as far as I'm concerned. So I'll be back in just a second. We'll take a look at the second third of my Cain Maduro, and we'll see if the flavor comes alive and see how the cigar goes. So sit tight. Alright, well, it's about time to take a look at the second third of my Cain Maduro. And as you can see, the burning characteristics are still excellent. Nice light colored ash, nice tight compact shape, not making any mess whatsoever. Smoke volume is excellent, getting lots of dense smoke, easy to get through the sinuses, and again, when you do, it's not aggressive. It's potent, but it's not aggressive where it gives you an uncomfortable sensation. The body hasn't really picked up much. It's still what I would consider very full with a thick mouthfeel. The nicotine level, I'm not really sure where it's going at this point. I don't know whether it's picked up or it's just sort of piling up, but I've got the mild headache now. My hands are feeling a little shaky. And you know, feel a little wobbly when you stand up, a little too fast, but it's not too much overall. We'll leave where it goes from here for the the last third of the cigar and the wrap up and whatnot. In the flavor department, it's still very consistent. I'm getting an oak wood flavor, and I guess the best way to describe it is sort of like a meaty Maduro-esque sort of flavor that's secondary. But in both cases, it's very, very mild flavor. And that's one of the things that I'm disliking most about this cigar, is the fact that it seems like it's completely unbalanced in terms of power, and there's just not enough flavor to make up for it. It's, I don't know, I'm not enjoying it in that sense. The other thing that's kind of getting to me a little bit is the resting smoke. It smells horrendous. And I do mean that. I mean, it smells awful. A lot of times, the smellier a cigar is, the more I enjoy it. It has a sort of really thick, enjoyable flavor to it. Here, it's just all power, and I guess it's all a little harrow burning, but I feel myself constantly glancing over the ashtray to make sure that I don't have a stream of resting smoke coming up towards my face. It's enough to, take your breath away a little bit. It's burning my eyes, and it's just irritating my nose a bit. So it stinks. Horrendous smelling cigar. But it's burning very well, and it's just nicotine laden and powerful. Just not real thrilled about the lack of flavor. So that's what I got for the second third. Still sipping on Magic Hat, and it seems to be helping with the nicotine a bit. The last sample I had, I smoked it as far as I could with just water, and it just wasn't enough. Whatever effects the nicotine are having on me seem to be minimized by or lessened by drinking something other than water. So that's why I skipped the water tonight and went with something, you know, to help break down the nicotine. And beer just seems to work, and it's good with cigars. So anyway, sit tight. I'll be right back. We'll take a look at the final third of the Cain Maduro and take a general wrap up of the stick, and I'll let you be on your way. Alright, well, it's about time to look at the final third of my Cain Maduro, and as you can see, it's a little bit longer than I usually show you when I do the final third, but we'll get into that later. First and foremost, again, just like the earlier thirds, the burn is very impressive. It's just, I'm amazed at how much Ligero is in here, and yet I haven't run into a single burn problem. I haven't needed to. It hasn't required any touch-ups. It's not getting too out of whack as far as the burn line goes. It's relatively even. I mean, there's a little bit of wave to it, but it's well within reason. The ash is nice, tightly compacted. It's moderately strong. I mean, you let it go about an inch and a half, and that gentle tap knocks off the end of the cigar. The first tap, when it got about an inch and a half long, it was kind of forceful to get it off, but after that, it's been moderate. Smoke volume is excellent, getting generous supply of very dense, thick smoke, easy to get through the sinuses. Again, it's still kind of impressive that the cigar isn't offensive, and you know, it doesn't give me that really heavy, peppery burning sensation through the sinuses. I mean, the retrohale is not hard at all, not like some other full-bodied cigars. It seems very smooth. It's not aggressive on the palate where I just feel worn out. It's fresh, it's clean, it's got a creamy sensation to it. Body, and what I mean by body, I know there was a little bit of confusion in an earlier article, in that people really weren't understanding what I meant, or there was a little bit of confusion. By body, I mean mouthfeel. In this case, it's very full-bodied. It feels very thick. I've got that sort of molasses kind of texture in the mouth. In the flavor department is where this cigar bombs. I mean, there's just nothing in terms of flavor. Very, very mild, or very, very mild flavored. I'm getting consistent flavor. I mean, I'm still getting some like oak flavors, and it's got like a meaty Maduro-ness, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But it's just minute in comparison to the body, and that's where this cigar is just tanking, is in the complete lack of flavor department. And you know, this leads into my overall impression of the cigar, and that's why they've got so much left. I'm going to be quitting on this early, and not because the nicotine level is tremendous and it's making me sick, but because at this point I'm just going through the motions. I'm not enjoying it. It's boring. I'm not getting the amount of flavor that I'm accustomed to or want out of a cigar. It's just very lackluster in the flavor department. And you know, it pains me to say it, but it's got to be the least flavorful product I've ever had coming out of Oliva. It's and you know, I want to like it, but it's not for me. It's just not flavorful enough, and I almost get the impression that this cigar was designed for the people that want that nicotine-laden bomb. You know, that stronger, harder, faster cigar where it's just, I don't know, it's going to knock you back, you know, put you in your seat. And, you know, this cigar, it's got that in terms of nicotine. It's got a hell of a nicotine punch in it, but it's lacking in flavor. So, that's why there's so much cigar left. And a little bit more on the nicotine, or well, yeah, might as well, I just said it anyhow. The nicotine level. Again, I don't know whether it's building or if it's just piling up. You know, I feel a little shaky in the hands. I've got a mild headache going on. But the headache could be because this thing just stinks in terms of aroma. I mean, my eyes are irritated, my nose is bothered. I constantly feel myself shifting around in my seat, moving away from this resting smoke that's drifting off of the cigar, just so I don't get hit in the face by it. And you're going to get that with so much Ligero. It has a tendency to stink, and this cigar does. It has just a horrendous room aroma. This is not the type of cigar that you want to smoke in a room, in an enclosed space with a non-smoker. Even if they're tolerant of your cigars, this one I think will drive them out of the room. I think I've done enough venting. So I'm actually, it's about 6 o'clock now. So you know, it's not as if I've had dinner and I've just obliterated my palate. I purposely smoked this before dinner so that my palate would be a little more refreshed, hoping that I would get a little bit more flavor volume out of it, but I just haven't. So I'm going to quit early on the cigar, go have dinner, and then maybe later on tonight I'll light up something else. So that's what I've got for you. So until next time, happy smoking.